If you've ever wondered what if Genghis Khan but with more bureaucracy, well, wonder no more. It's this guy, Kublai Khan. He was born in 1215 or 1216, depending on whether you prefer the slightly more vulgar Julian calendar or the slightly less vulgar Gregorian calendar. Either way, he came into this world fully formed as an evil mustache, and stayed that way until he left it in 1294. When he was born, his father, Genghis Khan, hadn't quite finished ruining the whole of northern China yet, but he was working on it. And when Kublai was around 9 years old, his father set out to finish the job. So he put young Kublai in charge of the family's personal property and told him to stay put while he went off to do evil stuff. But upon returning, Genghis found that someone had looted their stuff, so he sentenced his own son to death. Now, Kublai pleaded his innocence, saying that he didn't commit the crime, but also that he couldn't stop it from happening because he was only 9 years old. And everyone looked at each other and said, well, that escalated quickly. And then Kublai's mother stepped in and saved him, which just goes to show how much of a badass she was. And yes, that is a hat. In fact, it's the same hat from this video. You know what else is in that video? A contest where 3 winners are going to get one of these lovely hats. If you want to enter, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below with your favorite historical fact. Just make sure your comment is not fake news, or I will personally come to your house and take this hat away. Anyway, after that terrifying incident, Kublai lived with his mother for a while until his father restored his noble title and gave him command of a military district in 1234. And that's how we know that Kublai was truly his father's son. After that, Kublai followed his dad on his various evil world domination tours, providing crucial administrative expertise. For example, when Genghis sacked the city of Baghdad in 1258, Kublai helped divide the spoils according to the new Mongol accounting rules. Yes, accounting. Because even though the Mongols were illiterate horse archers who communicated via carrier pigeon, they still needed a way to keep track of how many sheep they had stolen this week and last week so that they wouldn't eat themselves into poverty. And it just so happened that the Muslim accountants they captured in Baghdad were experts in the field. But eventually, Genghis died in 1227 while attempting to conquer western China. And Kublai took over the family business, conquering western China and the Song Dynasty in 1279, thus uniting all of China under Mongol rule. Now, to be fair, the Chinese have been doing pretty poorly up until this point, thanks to a series of bad decisions that would make even a toddler look like a genius. First, their best and brightest had been getting murdered by rival warlords since the fall of the Han Dynasty in 220 AD in 960. The Song overthrew the equally incompetent Lateran Zhou Dynasty and did lots of cool stuff like invent gunpowder and movable type, and also lose half of their empire to the equally competent Khwarezmian Dynasty. And then in 1127, rival warlords once again seized northern China, forcing the Song court to flee south and establish a new capital in Hangzhou. Basically, you can think of China as being like that kid in school who couldn't focus and therefore failed all of their tests even though they had the potential to be top of the class. And honestly, it's kind of a miracle that China even existed at this point. But Kublai's conquest ended any hope of a miraculous recovery because in addition to being just as bad at focusing as the Song, he was also extremely lazy. For example, after conquering an area, he'd declare it part of the Mongol Empire, but then refused to collect taxes there because he liked having nice things and didn't feel like working. Or, after executing a bunch of people for crimes he himself committed, he'd get bored halfway through and then just let the rest of them go because collecting their heads felt like too much work. So instead he'd spend his time hosting lavish parties, building extravagant palaces, and making painstakingly detailed model ships, which is weird because he never went on the appropriately sized world cruises that all self-respecting 13th century mustachioed men should take.